Have you ever been to a place that seems like you're going to the center of the earth? Well, that's where we are now. We're near Boyers, Pennsylvania at Iron Mountain. This is an information management company where storage takes place, storage of information, storage of documents, and there are probably more than 2,000 customers that use this facility, including the federal government. Well, Chuck Dowdy is the Vice President of Engineering here, and we're in his office, and right behind me is a map of all the facilities and what this mine really is. Chuck, this was a limestone mine at one time, wasn't it?
It was. It actually goes back 400 million years ago when at the bottom of a prehistoric ocean, the calcium formed this Vanport limestone. And it basically lay dormant for 400 million years ago till about 1900, whenever the Industrial Revolution needed steel, and the limestone was used in the steel-making process.
So who owned this? Which steel company was gouging mine from the hillside here?
It actually was a division of United States Steel known as Michigan Limestone.
Okay, now when they gave up using this limestone mine, maybe they took all they needed out of here. What was left?
Well, it's actually about a 1,000-acre abandoned limestone mine. So they basically worked for 50 years, and the miners, about 500 of them, excavated that 1,000 acres. And they basically took enough limestone out to build a 6-lane highway from New York to San Francisco.
Now, what was left was rooms. So they left something to hold up the ceilings. It seems like it lent itself to bringing businesses to use as a storage area.
Exactly right. Actually, it's a very secure facility because of the amount of limestone that they left to support up the overburden. And then in and around 1950, the Cold War was going on and the nuclear bomb was out there. And it was actually determined that a subterranean area would be a safe place to put records.
Now, who was the first customer then?
Well, actually, the banks in the Pittsburgh area would have been the first customer, and actually a division of United States Steel built their first archives here at the Annandale mine.
Now, wasn't the U.S. government involved somehow preserving some of their records here?
Absolutely. Whenever the federal government indicated to the private sector that it would be a good idea to develop an underground archive, some of our first customers were also part of the federal government.
Well, I can't imagine, Chuck, that you can just take a bunch of cardboard boxes full of records and throw them into an old limestone mine. There must be something that had to be done to make this proper, make this right for using it for that kind of a facility.
Actually, you're right. And actually, it's a multifaceted thing. So not only are the aspects of building an archive underground where you have to worry about the walls and the roof and the floor and so forth, but there's some very complicated and sophisticated environmental controlled areas that we have down here. So the creation of an environment that permits the long-term storage of the records is very important. So we had to be very sensitive to the exact temperature and the relative humidity that the records were stored in.
Well, let's start from the beginning. Here you have a company that took over an old limestone mine. What did you have to do here physically to get it ready for company use?
Well, it was obviously very labor intensive. They actually had to put entrances into the mine that would be traversable by tractor trailers and people walking in. And then it was the construction, the systematic construction of many developed areas. So in the mine right now, we have developed over 1.7 million square feet. That is over 100 separate storage facilities for both the private sector and the federal government.
Chuck, it occurs to me that people working in a mine, I understand there are some 3,000 people working here every day for the various companies who are using your facilities. Would some of them feel a little bit uncomfortable being underground all day, not seeing a window to look out of?
Not really, because as you go through the mine, you'll find that we have a series of sidewalks and roads throughout the mine, and the people do actually traverse past the portal, and actually they can go outside during their breaks in their lunchroom. So it's really not a significant item. As a matter of fact, it can be an advantage. So in the wintertime, when we have a foot of snow outside, we have a very nice environment inside.
But it's interesting, once you're in here, other than seeing some rough-hewn walls where the original original limestone walls were, it seems like you're in an office building.
Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, the sheer scale of the area where you see vehicles operating and tractor trailers takes away that claustrophobic effect. And it really is like a city underground.
Now, how do you air condition this place? Because obviously, when cars are and trucks are driving through their carbon monoxide fumes, and you have to keep the temperature right, and you have to keep the humidity right. How do you do that?
Well, it's a very complicated series of HVAC systems that we've developed for the individual climate-controlled environments. But I guess to start, the mine has its own ventilation system. So by bringing in fresh air, we can dilute the contaminants and provide a very, very safe, constant environment for the people to work in. Not only that, in developing the constant temperature and humidity in the mine, it provides us the ability to create the storage areas at very precise temperature and humidity. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that we've developed the expertise here at the underground to do, and that is that we can actually provide an environment for the records that is a straight line temperature, straight line humidity for in excess of 20 years with no fluctuations at all.
Now, you've done this for years. Have you had to change some of the specifications over the years as technology got more sophisticated?
Absolutely. Not only as technology has changed, but as we migrated from paper records, which has a certain environmental standard that the paper likes, then as we moved to micrographics, which has another set of environmental conditions, and now into data centers, which has another. Additionally, in the industry, in the records management industry, basically what they've done for the preservation of records is the cooler you keep the record and the drier you keep the record within limits, the longer the record will last. So not only have we had to develop the systems that can operate at extremely low dew points, but also cool the records down.
Well, with the latest technology, is it necessary to keep the original paper documents?
Not really. And as a matter of fact, one of the things we see is that if you copy to an electronic format, basically the utilization of that document can expand to many people within the organization. So even though we, Iron Mountain, have very, very significant paper storage facilities, we also see that there's a transformation to more of the micrographics and the imaging and into the electronic records management.
But after doing that, do they still keep the paper records?
Sometimes. Actually, there are some irreplaceable documents. There are, as in the Corbis facility, there are photographic collections that are one of a kind, and we would never get rid of the original permanent document.
Now, the Corbis facility you mentioned we'll be visiting a little bit later, where they have photographs going back through the centuries, and we'll talk about that later in this program. Now, Chuck, let's talk a little bit about computers. You say that technology is now taking the place of storing paper, and companies are computer literate, and they have computer facilities in their home offices around the world. But I understand you have major facilities here that replaces some of the mainframes in some of these companies around the world.
Absolutely. Both in the private sector and the public sector, we, Iron Mountain, have our main computers here at the underground with a backup computer in Kansas City. And again, the subterranean area here at the underground lends itself for computer applications. And the reason it is because we're underground, the natural environment is about 55 degrees Fahrenheit. For every square foot of exposed limestone, it has the capability of absorbing about 1.5 BTUs per square foot per hour. So what we can do here in the underground is we can provide a lot of the necessary cooling without having to depend on chillers and cooling towers. Not only that, we've also developed the designs as we move forward to actually utilize some of the water that is in the abandoned 1,000 acres to directly cool the computer rooms, which again will put Iron Mountain in the forefront in cutting-edge data center design.
My understanding is that you have a lot of collections here. For instance, some of the major motion picture companies put some of their basic original stock here.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we have all of the motion picture studios representative here for their archives, and we have some of the most famous films collections here.
Such as?
We have Warner Brothers, we have Universal, DreamWorks, just to name a few.
So you have the actual films here now. Are these the original copies, or are these the ones that copies are made of to send to movie theaters?
It can be a combination of all those. And actually, when you look at it, long-term storage of films is best done in what they call a color separation. So they separate the original film into the three basic colors, and then we store that. Then whenever a film company wants to resyndicate or do anything like that, they bring those back together, and then they can redo it.
Now, is that done electronically now in these days, or do they have to actually physically bring the film here to store?
Actually, it can be done, and today most films are recorded electronically. One of the other services that we Iron Mountain provide in the original films that possibly could have been done on a 2-inch reel, that equipment doesn't exist. Iron Mountain brought together some experts in that industry, and they put together the equipment so we can actually go back on those original films and we can digitize them so that the film studios can then utilize them for newer films.
So they keep coming back here to take those films to use for whatever their purposes?
Absolutely, and as a matter of fact, that part of our business of preserving the old films is a very, very active part of our Iron Mountain's business.
I want to get back to computers, Chuck, because that's a fascinating area. When you told me earlier that the mainframe computers are here rather than in the home company offices, how do they get the information from here back to the company when they need to retrieve that information?
Well, that's another extremely important part, and it's the network connectivity. We, Iron Mountain, actually have installed with a network provider a very sophisticated, what is known in the industry, a SONET ring technology that we can actually bring the information in a private line to this facility. And we are now in the process of developing multiple network providers to provide redundancy to those network circuits.
So we hear about power outages around the country. We hear about storms that cause problems and floods that cause problems. What happens if one of your connections from here, with the basic information a company needs, has to get to there, and there's a breakdown in the electrical circuits?
Well, again, it's one of the strong suits of this facility. From a network perspective, the SONET ring that we have installed has diverse routes in itself. So if there is a break at any point on it, the data would basically flow in the alternate location. But to speak to that point, we also have generators at this facility. So if there is an event outside where we lose power, we have a series of 11 generators that would actually come online, and we would just operate like we had total power in the facility. And because we're underground, we're actually protected by tornadoes and hurricanes, floods, and so forth.
Chuck, what occurs to me now is we hear about terrorism, and we hear about also, I suppose, corporate terrorism, where everybody wants to learn about everybody else's secrets. What kind of a security system do you have here to prevent the wrong guys from coming in here?
Well, first of all, we are a level 4 security facility. Give you an idea, the White House and the Pentagon are level 5s. So we have that kind of a rating. As you came in, you noticed that our guards are armed guards, and we are protected. We have installed perimeters of security around the facility. So we have established additional security in addition to being subterranean, where we're protected from the environment outside. From a electronic perspective, in the data circuits that we have and the applications that we run, we certainly have firewalls that protect the intrusion of other people from getting into our network circuits.
We hear about hackers that do some amazing things. Are you protected against some of these very interesting young people who just want to do things for fun?
Absolutely. And not only that, Iron Mountain actually employs what they call friendly hackers. So we contract with third parties to intentionally try to get into our systems so that we can find out in advance if we have any weak spots.
I know, Chuck, we can't talk about individual companies and what they do here and what they have here, but I understand that one thing we can talk about is the original patents of some of the original stuff that was on the market in this country.
Yes, we can. And actually, we have here at the facility the first patent ever issued for potash, a fertilizer. We have the first patent for the Thomas Edison light bulb, the first numerical processor known today as a computer, the first microfilm reader is stored here. And in addition to these sort of electronic and physical things, we also have the patent for the Red Delicious apple.
That's patented.
Absolutely. So there's actually a picture of it that you can see. So in the event that somebody wanted to develop something very similar to it, they could refer to a picture of it and determine whether it's similar or not.
Now, these are U.S. government documents. Do you have other government documents down here?
We do, and some of them we can't speak to, but we actually store significant records for the federal government, both from a classified and unclassified perspective.
Now, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but aren't the Social Security records here?
They are.
And that's as far as you can go?
That's as far as we can go, yes.
Now, in addition to the security coming in to Iron Mountain, which is considerable, as you mentioned earlier, what about the security getting into each of these different companies' offices?
Well, first of all, when you go through the mine, you'll notice that there are not many door signs, so we really don't advertise where facilities are in the mine. There really is no road names, streets, and avenues. So once you get in the facility, even if you knew a company was here, it would be extremely difficult to know within the 145 acres that we have and the 1.7 million square feet that we developed where a specific company resides and what records would be in that enclosure.
Now, there are 3,000 employees more or less working here every day. Are some of them checked for security purposes?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we have everything from a traditional clearance that you would get to be an employee of a company to top secret clearance cleared people in this facility.
Now, we came down here from Armstrong. Were we checked out pretty thoroughly?
Absolutely. In other words, we knew at least 48 hours in advance who you were. In the case of your staff and yourself, you would be what they would call a trusted visitor. So we know about Armstrong. We did check names out and so forth. If you were going to enter any of the secure areas, we would have had to know several weeks in advance, and actually a very simple background check would have been made at that point.
Let's talk about the history of this place. It goes back a long time. Iron Mountain didn't own it originally. Let's talk about before you did have it.
Absolutely. It was first started in 1951 as National Storage Company, and actually it was started by an ex-United States Steel employee that was an entrepreneur. United States Steel was building an archive here, and he saw the possibility of a business. So he started it. In 1972, a local businessman bought it, and actually at that point it was very well capitalized and brought on some key staff, myself included, and then we continued to develop it. And in 1998, Iron Mountain purchased the facility from National Underground Storage.
And how many more companies are here now as compared with the early days?
Well, we have seen, actually since its inception, a steady growth. So even though our customer base changes, depending upon what kind of record or storage, but we see a very, very healthy growth to this facility. And I should say at this point that with the data center initiative that we're moving forward, we see significant growth in the future.
So this is a data center as well as a storage area, and I know there's a lot more room. You haven't used all the space in this old limestone mine. Do you expect that to be filled before too long?
Absolutely. Part of my job is to see that the entire mine is filled. And right now we have over 250,000 square feet of raw mine that is capable of being developed right now into future data centers.
Chuck, it's been so interesting. Thanks for having us down here, and thanks for explaining what you do.
Very good. Thank you. It was great to have you down at the underground.
We have some places to visit specifically because we're not allowed to go to many of the companies that you just heard. But there's one company that we mentioned earlier called Corbis, and it's a fascinating operation. Let's go to visit them and see what they do. There's a footprint of Bill Gates of Microsoft fame right here in Butler County. And right here at Iron Mountain is a place called Corbis Film Preservation Facility. And it's an amazing place. They've got 20 million photographs here, some of the most famous photographs you've ever seen. Ann Hartman is in charge of this operation here, and this is an amazing facility, and we have to talk about what's really here. 20 million photographs. Some go back to the 1800s, don't they?
They do. Corbis opened in 2002 here and brought 18 tractor-trailer loads of images to this facility, dating back, as you said, to 1800s, 1900s.
Now, why was Bill Gates interested in this whole process?
Bill Gates really leads the industry in preserving photography. This facility is an example of it. The temperature is 45 degrees and with a controlled humidity. And this was a huge effort to preserve these images.
Now, 20 million photographs. I don't know where to start. What are some of the earliest photographs you have, or the actual photographs?
We have photographs, as we had said, from 1800. Some are glass plates, glass slides. But I guess the significance of it is these images are historic and iconic images, and that's what makes it such a prize.
Now, after all these years, don't they deteriorate?
They do. Photographic images do deteriorate, and that is why they're being preserved at this facility.
Now, when they're in negative form, glass negatives or acetate negatives or actual photo prints,
Right.
That's one way to preserve it, I suppose, but aren't you doing something digitally now?
We also, as we receive our requests from our clients, and the Corbis website shows hundreds of thousands of images, beautiful images, as they are digitized, of course they're preserved because they're captured.
Is there another way of doing this? Is there another way of preserving photographs other than something as elaborate as what's here at Iron Mountain?
There's really only the method, which is to preserve it through temperature and humidity. The temperature in this vault has been reduced because it is the temperature and the effects of humidity that causes the deterioration.
And tell us about this facility. Structurally, how is it made? How was it put together in order to preserve what you need to preserve?
Well, I think first the Iron Mountain location was selected. We are 220 feet underground. We therefore start with reduced temperature and humidity. The floor has been preserved. Of course, we have rock walls, and all of this can be done underground at a lower cost than it can be done in a major city where you have to change your temperature based on the climate.
Are there any storage facilities for photographs like this anywhere else?
Corbis has another facility right outside of Paris, the Sigma Access and Film Preservation Facility, and that facility has similar climate control to preserve that collection.
And let's talk about some of the actual photographs that are here. Some of them I know people will recognize because we've seen them in print, we've seen them in lots of different places. What are some of the most famous ones you want to mention?
Well, I think Rosa Parks sitting in the front of the bus, that certainly is an iconic and an image that that Corbis has in the original form, and we want to preserve that.
Now, this is what really started the civil rights movement back in the 1960s.
Yes, I think the year before that photograph, she was actually arrested for sitting in the front of the bus, and then the legislation was enacted. So yes, that's a great image. Another one is Einstein sticking out his tongue. Everyone's familiar with that image. There's a famous image, the construction workers on a beam. That's known worldwide. Marilyn Monroe with her skirt blowing up. That's another image that's in the collection.
I guess I wonder, and some of our viewers are wondering too, what is all this for? Who uses these pictures? Who can access some of the collection here?
It's really used by, certainly everyone has access to it by going on to corbisimages.com, but primarily advertisers, book publishers, creative professionals that are looking to design a website, that create a newspaper, a magazine, television, and film all use this collection.
Now, you have film here as well. What film is that?
Film, if you went onto the Corbis website, you can see there's a Corbis Motion area, and you can go into that site and pull up historical film, present-day film, action, anything that really has motion associated with it.
Now, I know you have original photographs, famous photographs of many presidents. Can you mention some of them?
Well, we have all presidents, and when I say we have images, we have images that came from books and magazines. So we would have Washington up to the present images, which you could go onto the Corbis website and see Barack Obama. But for example, one collection I like to look at is those of Abraham Lincoln. So the Matthew Brady images that he captured are there.
So you have the original Matthew Brady photographs of Abraham Lincoln,
Well,
with and without a mustache, I understand, or a beard.
What we would have is images that have been captured, for example, by Matthew Brady, and those are represented on the website so Corbis can license those images.
Now, I understand that the original major purchase was the Bettman collection. And I think we've heard that the Bettman collection was at the time one of the most elaborate photographic collections in the world. Tell us who Bettman was and how this all started.
Otto Bettman really provided the foundation of this collection, and Corbis acquired it in the 90s. Otto Bettman worked in Germany, worked for the German government. He was dismissed from his employment during the time of Hitler. He came across the border and brought this collection, hit the foundation of this collection with him. 2 steamer trunks he brought with him, and he went to New York, where he opened the first photo archive business.
Now, he enhanced that collection all those years afterwards, didn't he?
He did. He acquired other collections, United Press International, for example, a great news collection. And by the time Corbis acquired it, there was over 11 million images in that collection.
So there are news pictures here from the different wars. Let's talk about some of the actual photos from World War II.
World War II photos are here. We have some displayed around the vault and show some of those horrific scenes from World War II, from Vietnam.
Now, there's some photos that you showed me earlier of Tarawa during World War II in the South Pacific, and there were some other World War II photographs that really we know we've seen before, but we didn't know that they were here.
Yes, certainly that famous Tarawa scene of the Japanese soldiers on the beach, and a lot of people are not aware that Corbis owns those and maintains them here in this facility.
Now, there's a Marilyn Monroe picture that's very famous.
There is, and actually we have several of them, but certainly the one with her skirt blowing up that is known around the world is an image we have here.
And that's in this collection. Do you have the original negative here?
We do. Corbis is storing the collection, and most of the media stored here is in negative form.
Now, you have some glass plates, too, and some other forms of photography?
Yes, certainly glass plates that certainly came into the photographic world around the middle 1800s. And Corbis has many hundreds of those, hundreds of thousands of glass plates stored here.
If I were a television network and wanted to do a program about Franklin Delano Roosevelt, what would you have there that I might want to borrow or rent?
You could go on to Corbis.com, corbisimages.com, and you could look at the wealth of collection we have, the wealth of images we have on Roosevelt. And you could make selections there during the presidency, before his presidency, certainly afterward, and it would actually span his life.
So someone can go directly onto the website and pick out any picture from any era about any person or any category of people.
Just a wealth of images would be presented to you on the website, yes.
Have you been here long?
I've been here since Corbis opened, and I came to this facility not believing what kind of photography was here, and just have enjoyed working here.
And this has been fascinating. Thanks for inviting us up.
Thank you, Larry.
Corbis Film Preservation Facility here at Iron Mountain, 220 feet below the ground in an old limestone mine near Boyers, Pennsylvania. I'm Larry Berg. We'll see you next time on Faces and Places.